Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 4 In Depth. In today's episode, I'm going to be reviewing all of the zombies weapons currently available in Blackout. I hand-tested all of these. I painstakingly fought in Asylum and Graveyard and Lighthouse to get box after box after box to get all of the weapons and get you this information, so I hope that you enjoy it. And as per FTC regulations, I need to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Juggernog. When you're having a rough day and you need a little something extra to help you fend off the hordes of undead at your doorstep, look no further than the refreshing Juggernog. Rest in peace, buddy. I miss you. We really need you in Black Ops 4 Zombies. One quick fact that I want to get out of the way before I get into the hard stats is that you can't put attachments on any zombies weapon in Blackout. Not a single one of these weapons will take any attachments whatsoever, so that's a big frustration for me, but I just didn't want to repeat it so many times over. And let's start off with everybody's favorite, the ray gun. The ray gun deals a colossal amount of damage per hit at 145. That is a ludicrous amount of damage. That's more than the Paladin. If you get a headshot, it'll deal 200 plus damage, which is again more than the Paladin and most sniper rifles, because most sniper rifles can't one-hit kill people that have taken a trauma kit. This will one-shot kill anybody, even if they're using a trauma kit, with the exception of the fact that damage is lowered by armor. The incoming damage from the ray gun is naturally lowered by the armor, just like everything else in the game, but for whatever reason, the ray gun seems to break armor faster. Armor is overall somewhat resilient in Blackout to the number of shots that you take. Between high and low damage, it doesn't change a whole lot, but I have noticed that the ray gun appears to break people's armor in maybe 2 shots. Very rarely do they have any armor left after that. Rate of fire is kind of slow at about 200 rounds per minute. That should be expected for a weapon like this so that you just can't crank out ludicrous amounts of DPS, but it is slow enough to where the follow-up shots can be frustrating to take. It's also important to note that the ray gun shoots a slow projectile. It's not an instant hit scan, and it has a very unique sound and a green tracer, so everybody's going to know where you're at. It does have a tiny splash damage area. You do not have to get a direct hit. However, the splash damage in Blackout is minuscule compared to zombies, and I strongly recommend going for direct hits. However, it's easy to miss moving targets. The projectile speed is more like that of the Banshee in Black Ops 3, one of the DLC shotguns that shot energy projectiles. You can, since it doesn't have drop, in theory snipe people with this, I guess if they're sitting still, but for all practical purposes, that's going to be very difficult. You also can't refill ammo in any way on the ray gun. The ammo that you get in the ray gun is just all the ammo that you get. You never get to refill it. There's no ray gun ammo on the map. Maybe that's to make it fair. And my overall thoughts on the ray gun is that it's surprisingly good to use, but only in extra close quarters combat like a shotgun. The ray gun's not that bad of a weapon. A lot of people kind of poo-poo it and don't pick it up and look down on it because it can be fluky, but if you save it as sort of a pocket shotgun for close range situations, you can utterly punish people, especially late game. They are not prepared to take ray gun damage behind trees and get rushed with 2-shot kill weapons. It's super good like that, but it's a niche weapon. It's not an everyday, all the time weapon. Moving along to something that's a little bit less specialized, let's talk about the MP40. The MP40 has very high damage at 45 per shot, and if you're getting headshots, it'll deal 49 per shot. That's a 10% multiplier, and this is super high damage. This is just high damage overall in general for Blackout, but it's extremely high for submachine guns. This kind of surprised me, and I think the design goal was to make the weapon more similar to good old World at War MP40 action. Rate of fire is 530 rounds per minute, which is kind of slow for an SMG, but not too bad for an overall rate of fire. Like, compared to all guns in the game, that's very doable, but compared to other SMGs, of course, it's slow, and it will feel and shoot a little slow and a little chuggy, and I think that is, again, to simulate that 2-shot kill stopping power, amazingly annoying weapon from Call of Duty World at War in 2008. Reload time is 1.6 seconds. The reload animation, though, is 2.3 seconds. This is a little bit slower than most other submachine guns, but not enough to where you're likely to notice, or not enough to where it's going to be a make or break in your life. I think that the iron sights are ugly and small and cluttered. They're difficult for me to use. At Blackout ranges, of course, I can kill people up close. Recoil on this weapon is not low. Unfortunately, the recoil is moderate, so if you are going for medium range engagements, please be prepared to miss quite a few shots. Though, to its benefit, it does have very tight hipfire spread. I think the hipfire spread is really good on this weapon, and especially with that high damage, you can chunk people really hard if you rush them with hipfire. Obviously, if you've got got the skills, ADS might be better. Hipfire is criminally underrated on the MP40. I do want to also point out that the MP40 is by far the rarest of all zombies guns. It doesn't spawn naturally, zombies don't drop it, and it only shows up in the box, and compared to all other boxed weapons, I've only picked up the MP40 3 times in my entire playing of Black Ops 4 Blackout. This one just almost never shows up. It is ludicrously rare. So even though it may not be the best weapon, when it does show up, you should use it because you're not going to get a lot of other chances. As for my recommendation or thoughts on this weapon, it's not too bad if you want to use it for a close quarters combat hipfire machine and you understand the damage style. If you understand that it's like the World at War MP40 and that you're really going for like 3 and 4 shot chunky kills on people and that each shot really matters and it's not a spray gun, you can do pretty well with it. You can actually kill people. It can be a useful backup weapon for you. But overall, there probably are better backup weapons in the game, the ray gun being one of them, the SOG or the Spitfire definitely being easier to use, so not the best weapon to pick up, but very usable. Let's move along to another usable weapon that had surprising stats, and that's the Galil. It has a different name in this game, but it is literally the Black Ops 1 Galil, and that's what I'm going to call it because I'm on a nostalgia trip, because the Galil was my favorite weapon in Black Ops 1. The Galil has a damage of 37 per shot, and it'll deal 40 per shot with headshots. This is average for rifles. It's very similar to the ICR, a little bit less than the Rampart. Nothing really out of the ordinary here when it comes to 5.56 ammo weapons. The rate of fire is 530 rounds per minute, oddly the same as the MP40 submachine gun, and that's a little bit slow for rifles. The Rampart's slower, and there are rifles that do perform worse, but overall this one is kind of slow. It's not the fastest firing, even though it seemed like it when I first used it. So given an average amount of damage and an overall slow rate of fire, the Galil unfortunately has overall poor DPS. This weapon is just outperformed by others in the DPS department. Even though it may not, for me, I would use it before I tested these stats, and I thought it was a murder machine. It felt great in my hands, but that's not reality. Reload time's a little bit slow at 1.8 seconds. Animation is at 2.3 seconds. You have a slightly larger than normal magazine, so that's a bonus, but you can't add extended mags or anything. The iron sights are small but functional. I can use these. I can track people at range. I can get hits on. They're not the easiest in the game, but I make use of them. The recoil is also very controllable. You should be able to do 5 to maybe 8 shot bursts with this weapon and get a lot of your shots on target. I do generally recommend full auto because with the small sights you might lose track of your target, but long bursts work fantastic at dropping people at range. My overall opinion on this weapon is that I was placeboed. I was bamboozled. I used to love this weapon. I still love this weapon for nostalgia reasons from Black Ops 1, so I get really excited when I pick it up in Blackout. But I have to accept reality, which is it's underpowered in Blackout. The Galil doesn't do anything that the ICR can't do better. The ICR is just a better Galil that you can put attachments and sights on, so unless you don't have other weapons or you're just screwing around, the Galil is definitely not a good assault rifle to use. Next up, let's talk about the Zweihander. I actually had to look up a pronunciation guide to say this correctly, and according to Google, it said it's called Zweihander. So I'm going to try to call it Zweihander, and hopefully that's close enough in German. The damage is only 32 per shot, and if you get a headshot, it's only 35 per shot. Pretty standard 10% headshot multiplier. This is very low for a light machine gun. In any Call of Duty game, much less Black Ops 4, this is very, very low damage per shot. It can feel like a hit marker machine sometimes. Rate of fire, however, is very fast at 720 rounds per minute. It's doing fantastic in that department. Fast for an LMG, maybe fast. I think that does outperform the Hades as well. Well, Hades in multiplayer with the rapid fire is about the same. The Zweihander has an excellent DPS though, and a large magazine to sustain. While the initial damage per shot is not fantastic, the rate of fire more than makes up for it, and it has a good DPS in Blackout, and with 75 rounds that you can put downstream, you can punish people while they're reloading, you can keep up suppression, and you can do a lot of generally nice things with this weapon. Reload time is kind of brutal. The reload time is 2.4 seconds, and if you go through the full reload animation, that is 5 seconds, so I strongly recommend reload canceling. As soon as you see those weapons in the mag, just YY or triangle or mouse wheel, whatever, super fast, and reset it. You'll save yourself 2.5 seconds. That's really important. It does seem to have slightly better hip fire than other LMGs. I did not get a chance to test for comparison's sake. It also might be just how I'm using it when I pick it up in Asylum and I'm all desperate running around spraying people, but hipfire is surprisingly workable here. Iron sights are also workable up to about medium range. They're maybe not as good as the Galil, but they do have the nice, this weapon used to be mounted on airplanes, as I've been told, so they've got that nice sort of like airplane crossbar, and you can line that crossbar up on people and punish them, though I do admit at long range the bar bounces a bit and the bulk of the weapon makes it difficult to track targets, especially in a mode where other people are going to have sniper rifle sights. I do want to say that the weapon has a goofy left-right up recoil because it's a double barrel weapon with each barrel firing alternately, and each barrel kicks up, but it also kicks left and then up and then right and then up, and it sort of drags around in a fashion that I find unusual for Call of Duty games that I am not used to and I overall dislike. I do have a difficult time controlling it, and I prefer to either just full auto spray people or use it in very small bursts. My rating and recommendation on this weapon is very positive though. It's probably the best overall zombies weapon in Blackout because it's the most multi-purpose. The high DPS means that you can fight SMG guys up close, you can fight rifled people at medium range, you could get a couple of hits on at long range, not consistently. It's good enough to hip fire, it's got a big magazine, it does almost everything that you need a weapon to do, it just doesn't do it easily, and maybe the recoil's not great. But of the zombies weapons, this one is probably the best to use. It might be a close second to the ray gun, because the ray gun has a really strong close quarters combat attribute. Unfortunately, now we have to talk about the Essex, which is the lever action rifle, and I gotta let you know, the Essex is pure pain. The Essex deals 50 damage per shot. Headshots deal 75, which is kind of high. Overall damage and the headshot multiplier surprised me on this weapon. So Essex headshots can be really filthy. That's a 2-shot kill if they're not wearing level 3 armor, guaranteed. However, the rate of fire is painfully slow at 106 rounds per minute, with a 5-round magazine that you will burn through very quickly, probably missing people, and it takes about 2 seconds to reload whether you do the cancel or the animation or not. It's not a very fun process. The iron sights are decent. Like, if you look at them objectively, they're round, they're clear, you can hit people and get kills with it. It's just, you won't be able to do this when somebody else is spraying at you with a Maddox because he has a 3x sight. You don't have the zoom to compete with people, and you don't have the ammo to spare, or the damage to spare, or the time, and as you can tell, this weapon is terrible. It has no place in the Blackout meta, no use, and to be honest, I would rather go knifing. I would just rather stab people or use melee weapons or shotguns than I would screw around with the Essex. I could kill more people with the Mozu than I could with the Essex, and that's really saying something, though. Also, when we get to the Mozu episode, you'll see the Mozu is ludicrously strong if you get the Operator Mozu, especially with fast mags. It's almost an instant reload. So I don't recommend using the Essex at all. And finally, let's talk about the Bowie Knife. The Bowie Knife is a 1-stab kill on enemies, with one exception. If they have level 3 armor and a trauma kit, it's going to take 2 stabs to kill, and the first stab is going to break the level 3 armor. But most of the time, you should expect to just get a 1-stab kill. Very rarely will somebody survive being stabbed. It is the fastest, quietest, and by far the best way to clean out zombies. I think that's its true purpose in Blackout, is that when you are at areas with zombie boxes, you attract a lot of attention because other teams want to come in and scavenge your boxes. Just stabbing the zombies and clearing them out real quick without drawing a lot of attention is a very good thing. I love this weapon as a troll weapon. It's kind of fun, and I would say it would be useful if it worked, but sadly the stab range is bugged. It has the same bug in multiplayer where it does not effectively stab people. You get a lot of miss stabs and a lot of weird hit markers, and just I won't use this weapon until it's fixed. I do not like stabbing somebody and having my stab not count, and then I lose the fight. I worked too hard to melee somebody to die to a glitch, and I'm just not going to participate in that. Phew, that's a lot of in-depth really fast. I've got some overall thoughts at the end, with the most important one being that most zombies weapons are not very good. There are a few of them that fill niche roles. The ray gun does. The Zweihander is general enough to be a good weapon, and you know, the MP40 is a good backup weapon. The Galil is usable, but they're not very good. They don't beat out other readily available weapons. You can just get better stuff somewhere else. So in general, I don't use them a whole lot, and I think that these weapons need to be buffed. I think for these weapons to have any relevance in Blackout, any rarity, any importance, any meaning, they need to be significantly buffed to if they can't take attachments, then they need to deal more damage in DPS or shred armor or have better ballistics or something. If they would perhaps allow attachments to be put on these weapons, then some of them would be better. You could take the Galil and make it into a similar to an ICR. You could take that MP40 and kit it out. You could refill your ray gun ammo. You could get double extended mags on the Zweihander and just have like 300 or something crazy. Those type of weapons would have a place in Blackout, but as of now, they kind of don't. Guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful, and if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out. Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to World War II in depth. Nope. Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Blackout. Nope. Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to... Nope.